and you are tuned into the Miriam Makunda Show.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the Miriam Makunda Show. If you've just joined us, welcome. It is 11:40 on this Wednesday, the 17th of February, 2021. It's time for our health and fitness segment. And on today's show, we are discussing good and bad fats and all you need to know about what is good for you, what is bad for you, and how to read food labels. So, making heart healthy food choices and keeping a healthy body weight can help prevent and treat heart disease. Eating too much of any kind of fat is not good for your health. But when it comes to your heart, sometimes some types of fats are healthier than others. Let's find out how to make the right choices with dietitian Yuri Bhaga. Yuri, good morning. Yuri, did we just lose you? All right, must be the network or something, but that's the topic of discussion for today. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the comment section, or you can send them to us on WhatsApp. The number is 0617660355. There's Yuri. Hi, Yuri.
Hi.
All right, so thank you for joining me this morning. Let's talk about fats. First of all, what are dietary fats and why do we need them?
So fats are one of those contentious issues that's always, such a confusing topic for everyone, because sometimes, you're saying you need fats because they're healthy, but then very common one, stay away from fats, bad for, if you're trying to lose weight, all of these things. But basically fats are one of the main food groups. We know them as carbohydrates, proteins, fruits, veggies, and then obviously there's fats. So they are one of the main macronutrient groups, and contrary to popular belief, they are actually very necessary in our diets in a balanced way, because they're important for a number of functions. And these range from, hormones, regulation, communication within the body, they're for insulating our vital organs. If we have too little fats in our bodies, if we're not having enough, we can actually see the effects of this, negative effects, which include, the symptoms of nutritional deficiency. So, if you're very tired, you can have, very dry skin, hair that's falling out, and in severe cases, poor wound healing, damaged gums, all these things. So it's definitely something you want to have in your diet, but it's important we know how much and what kind.
Mm-hmm. All right, so please give us examples of good fats as well as bad fats.
All right, so as you just said, there are good fats and bad fats. So the easiest way to kind of filter which ones we need to focus on and which one not to is to know the other names that they go by. Because, if we go to the shop, look on the label, we're not going to see good fats and bad fats, manufacturing money. So let's start with the bad fats. So if we go to the shops and we want to kind of determine if this product is got more healthier fats, we'll be looking for something called unsaturated fats, which are the healthier fats or the good fats. Bad fats, on the other hand, are the saturated or trans fats. So the least healthy fat that you can find are trans fats. And these are basically manufactured fats, and they aid in basically the manufacturing process to extend shelf life and obviously to improve the taste of foods. And these foods are basically our very, very processed foods. So think of biscuits, chips, takeaways, basically, our quick convenience foods that we find and that we all enjoy and love, but we probably shouldn't be having them as often as some of us do. So that's what that, and we should actually be aiming to get less than 1% of our daily total energy from these fats. Then the type of bad fats, which are more commonly known as saturated fats, right? And these are basically mostly from animal sources. So it could be the fat on a piece of meat, the skin of the chicken, and they're generally solid at room temperature. And I just see there's been a question around coconut oil, and I was just getting to that. Coconut oil has been one of those things that's been in the media a lot recently. And actually, coconut oil, I mean, in winter, if you think of coconut oil that's sitting in your cupboard, it's solid. So it actually is one of the tropical oils, along with palm oil, that is not an animal source, that actually is quite high in saturated fat. So, if we are using a lot of coconut oil, it might not actually be healthy as we would like it to be, because it actually has quite a high amount of saturated fat. So those are some of the bad fats. And again, this is basically same as trans fats. It's takeaway foods, fried foods, deep frying anything is going to increase the fat content. So that's that for them. Alternatively, they are then the good fats, and these are called saturated fats. So I'm sure people, reading and through the media have heard there's now monounsaturated fats and polyunsaturated. So what is the difference? So if we start with monounsaturated fats, basically these are not, our bodies can make them, so they're not essential. But basically, examples of where we could be finding these is our plant-based sources, and they're usually liquid at room temperature, unlike the saturated fats. So that comes from examples like canola oils, safflower oil, olive oil, nuts, seeds, and nut butters, peanut butters, almond butters, and things like avocados, which most people love. These are really good for kind of reducing our bad cholesterols and helping increase the levels of our good cholesterol, which is the HDL. So that's monounsaturated fats, right? But then a very important fact, and these are the ones that are basically going to help with all those things I mentioned earlier with, good health, good biological processes, making sure all of that's running smoothly. These are the polyunsaturated fats. And the reason they're so important is because they're called essential fatty acids, and they're essential because our bodies cannot make them, which means we have to be getting them in from our diet. So when we are getting in fats, we want to focus on polyunsaturated and monounsaturated fats, ideally, and leaving the saturated fats for, small to moderate amounts here and there when we want some that we're in the mood for, So polyunsaturated fats, examples of this is if you're having a serving to 2 servings of fatty fish per week, you're probably meeting your intake. But now lots of people have gone plant-based and they don't be eating, fish and meat and things like that. It's still possible to get in your dose of polyunsaturated fats, although it's not as an active form when you're getting it from the plant-based sources. But these will include walnuts, pine nuts, flax seeds, hemp seeds, chia seeds. Or you can get it through supplements, through algae or seaweed supplements, or you could be taking a fish oil supplement. It just depends on what your dietary sort of preference is, and if you are or not eating, fish and meat and stuff like that.
All right. I'm glad that you brought up the coconut oil thing because as I was reading on this year and I came across coconut oil, and like you've mentioned, the media has been ranting and raving about coconut oil, and we have been purchasing coconut oil as it is. I have a bottle in my cupboard, and that's where it stays. It doesn't even go in the fridge. So I'm like, now I have to use my coconut oil for my hair instead because
Yes.
this is going to be bad for me as it is. All right. Now, what about dairy products such as cheese, milk, yogurt? You mentioned that butter is good, but what about these other products and eggs as well? So, do they contain any good fats or bad fats that we should be concerned?
So bottom line is that we should not be cutting out dairy because we're afraid of the fats. That is not the way to go. As it is, we probably aren't getting in enough dairy as a nation in South Africa. So definitely try and get in your serving of dairy a day. But if you are concerned about the fat content, then yes, I think it is actually not a bad idea to move to the low fat options. So if you're thinking of, for example, our very high fat cheeses, cheddar, the more fancy cheese, blue cheese, camemberts, all of that, those should be reserved for special occasions. Definitely not something having on a daily basis, but for general cooking, a mozzarella or Edam, those lighter colored cheeses, or if you into the label reading, you could then check and see, if it has more saturated or unsaturated fats, but they shouldn't be cut out and they can definitely form part of a healthy diet. Same goes for milk. If you are someone that drinks a lot of milk, you're having 2 glasses just of milk a day, probably a while, especially if you have a history of maybe heart disease, if you're just worried with family history, to go for the low-fat options. And the same goes for yogurts. I mean, there's some yogurts out there that they're double cream, full fat yogurt, and they taste more like ice cream than anything else, because you can actually, they are they taste nicer, and, they might,
Creamier.
very creamy. But if you're having it as, like, a snack twice a day, it might be an idea to look for the middle, low fat options if you're having a lot. But if it's something you're having, once or twice a week, and you don't have any conditions that predispose you to heart disease, then enjoy your double cream if it's not like a very regular thing.
All right. So if you want to cut down on bad fats, how do you go about doing it? Do you do it gradually, or do you just now decide, okay, I'm done. We're getting rid of all the bad fats in our pantry, and then you now have to start including good fats in your diet. So how do you go about including these good fats and reading labels when you grocery shopping?
I mean, unless it's an extreme circumstance where you really have to make a lifestyle change, it's life and death, then obviously I'd say cut everything out tomorrow. But, if it's just a lifestyle change you want to make to be healthier in the long run, then I think a gradual approach is always the best approach, because if you try and do too much at once, it's not going to be enjoyable. You're not going to want to do it. And after 2 weeks, you'll be back into your old habits, and you wouldn't have cut out any of these bad fats. So for example, if you're cooking with, deep frying, and you're frying most of your foods, you're having a lot of takeout, you're using lots of butter when you cook, and stuff like that, then you could choose 2 of them and say, if I'm having takeout 5 times a week, I don't know if there's anybody that would be doing that in this climate, but if you are, then say, okay, instead of 5 times, I'll just do it on weekends. And instead of cooking with 5 tablespoons of butter, I'll move over to canola oil, and then get used to that, and then start introducing, okay, now I'm going to try and get in more of the polyunsaturated fats, and you can start adding, of fatty fish once a week. Maybe you're not a fish person, you can try and get used to that. So, small changes, picking the ones that will work for you and your family and your lifestyle. I mean, maybe you don't enjoy fish, not everybody does. And if you're really struggling, then maybe you'll have to decide if you want to go into a supplement. So, it really depends. Definitely the gradual approach. So pick 5 goals and try and implement them over the next 2 to 3 months. I think that's a good way.
But also it comes down to expenses, because the
100%.
healthiest stuff are often much more expensive than the unhealthy. For example, butter. You want to get some good fats, and you want to use butter instead of margarine, but then butter is like 3 times more than margarine. So you opt for the cheaper one, which is going to be good on your pocket as well, but it's not
Of
good for your
course.
heart. So how do we balance the two? And we still want to be healthy. So do we just completely leave out the margarine and do without the butter because we can't afford it, or are there any other affordable options?
While you're on about the butter, I mean, between butter and margarine, butter is actually more a saturated fat, so it's actually one of the healthy ones. In terms of margarine, it depends on the quality of margarine. So, I mean, in the shops, I'm sure we've all seen the heart healthy sign, and that's a good indication of what is basically heart friendly, heart healthy. So obviously, some of these products are a bit more pricey, for example, the Flora Active. But again, let's say you want to stick with the butter, or you can only afford, a normal margarine that maybe doesn't have this heart healthy sign. You can still be using these products. Let's say you cannot afford to now move over to the 50 rands for a small tub. As long as you're not using excessive amounts, it's fine. So if it is something that you can't afford to cut out in terms of expenses, maybe find another way to create a healthier habit. But in terms of, if it's maybe, for another example, a fatty fish can tend to be very expensive. Example, salmon and mackerel and things like that. And that's a lot of the marketing that's out there that says, oh, you have to be having these specifically, healthy tagged foods in popular media. But that it doesn't have to be the case. If you're having maybe a tin of pilchards or can of sardines, you will get the same benefit as you would from a very expensive salmon fillet. So they are, but it is tricky, especially knowing, the media sort of makes it seem like if we're not paying a lot for a specific food, it's not as healthy as, the normal foods that we'd just be picking up on our usual grocery run.
Hmm. Now, how do you get rid of this fats, these unhealthy bad fats that have already accumulated in your body?
So, I mean, I don't want to say you can get rid of fat. So if you have an accumulation of fats and it's actually affecting your health, you probably have high cholesterol, and there are ways, obviously, through diet to sort of minimize that effect. But if you have already got, plaques and you are suffering from, the consequences of having this heart disease, then I would say it's probably time to visit your doctor, and they will come up with a plan and put you on specific medications. Because that probably is the only way you'd know you already have this buildup and it's affecting you, is if you've gone to your medical practitioner, or if it's just sort of something you're thinking about, okay, this is my diet, I might be, at risk for this, then, and you aren't really experiencing any of these, negative health effects, and it's just a change you want to make sort of preventatively, then I'd say diet is a good way. You can go to your clinic to ask them to do a sort of a blood test to see what your fat levels are, cholesterol levels are, because that's really going to be the only way you know whether you are at risk or if you have higher than normal fat levels in your body. So make use of your healthcare providers, clinics, and then know sort of where your health standing is, and then you can make a decision moving on from there. It's not really something you can just know in. So that would be my advice for that.
Hmm. And quickly, when it comes to snacks, sometimes we don't know that there are bad fats that are disguised as good fats. Do you have any examples of these bad fats that are disguised as good fats?
So bad fats disguised as good fats. The best way to know what you're putting into your body is going to be learning how to read a label, a food label. Sometimes, obviously there are rules and regulations, and manufacturers really shouldn't be putting certain claims on, but they're quite sneaky with the wording. So they can say, um, lower in fat than our previous product. It doesn't necessarily mean it's low fat. It just means they reduced it by 1 or 2 grams. It doesn't actually healthier or considered actually a low fat product. So, for example, if you buy something and they say now with plant-based oils only and healthier, and then you go down the label and you'll actually see, okay, one of the ingredients they use is coconut oil, you'll, because of the the knowledge you now have, you'll be able to say, okay, no, this isn't actually as healthy as they claim. Let me rather look for a baked version, or something, just completely different if you want to stay away from it altogether.
Hmm. All right. So thank you so much for your time, Yuri. Please share your contact details with our viewers and listeners.
Right. So I'm Yuri Bhaga, and you can find me at Mbali Mapoli Registered Dietitians. And the best way to get hold of us would be just tapping Mbali Mapoli onto Facebook, and all our details will be there, as well as our booking links. So, yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Perfect. Thank you.
That was Yuri Bhaga, a registered dietitian, taking us through good fats versus bad fats, what constitutes as either good or bad fats. And this caught me by surprise, but coconut oil is not a good fat, guys. So let's try to reduce the bad fats that we consume and are putting into our bodies, and read the labels properly. Take your time in the grocery store if you must, because what you are picking up, you're putting into your body, and this is either going to be good for you or it's going to be bad for you. So make sure that you read the labels. Saturated is a no-no. That you are looking for unsaturated fats, you're looking for polysaturated, and you're looking for monosaturated. You do not want to put saturated as well as trans fat. Trans fat, she says, is one of the worst kinds because these are manufactured fats. So it's the extra processed stuff that you're going to be putting into your body. So, yeah, guys, let us try to turn our lifestyles around because, a healthy heart is what we need, right? Yeah. So you can leave your comments in the comment section below, or you can send them to us on WhatsApp. The number is 061 766 0355. To stay with us, we will be back after the break.